The Olympic Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius, has now been indicted for premeditated murder.
The Valentine's Day murder case involving South African Olympic star Oscar Pistorius.
When he walked into the court, he faced a wall, a barrage of cameras.
In the blink of an eye, Pistorius would go from international hero to murder suspect. Pistorius' girlfriend, 29-year-old model Riva Steenkamp.
Today would have been Riva Steenkamp's 30th birthday. Police believe Pistorius shot Steenkamp 4 times through a closed bathroom door.
Pistorius breaks down in tears as the charges against him are read aloud.
That Riva Steenkamp was there to spend the night with her boyfriend. Her overnight bag and iPad were found in his bedroom.
She tweeted her excitement for the upcoming holiday, saying, "What do you have up your sleeve for your love tomorrow?" Only hours later, she would be dead.
Neighbors have told police that they heard shouting before the shooting.
He gets his pistol from under the bed and goes down the hall to confront the intruder.
She died in my arms.
Detectives are studying a blood-stained cricket bat found at Pistorius' home.
This was either used to attack her further or that she used it to defend herself.
Tonight's bold question, does the Blade Runner's story make sense? Oscar Pistorius shot and killed his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp, but he says it was an accident, and he wrote a detailed description of exactly what he says happened. He thought intruders had broken into his bathroom through a window. He says he fired his 9mm through a locked door to protect himself and his girlfriend. But does his story make sense? Ryan Smith is standing by with our in-studio jury who will render a verdict by the end of the show on that very question. In studio tonight for the After Dark defense, Meg Strickler, the chair for the International Bar Association. Joining Meg, criminal defense attorney Philip Snyder. Helping me out with the After Dark prosecution, HLN law enforcement analyst Mike Brooks. In New York tonight, former South African TV host, CNN producer Nadia Bilchik. In Houston tonight, former prosecutor and one of the stars of TNT's new unscripted program, Cold Justice, Kelly Siegler. And joining us later in the program, CNN World Sport anchor Don Riddell. We begin tonight with the latest from court in South Africa, where former Olympian, national hero, and celebrity Oscar Pistorius now finds himself facing charges for the murder of his beautiful model girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp.
When he walked into the court, he faced a wall, a barrage of cameras. He turned his back on them, looking for support, comfort from his family, who were in the seats behind the dock. For a while, he sat and held hands, prayed with his brother and his sister. Just a meter away from that, friends of Riva Steenkamp were there as well, also holding each other. Remember, of course, today would have been Riva Steenkamp's 30th birthday. And those friends that I mentioned who were sitting just a meter from Oscar Pistorius in court today issued a statement, and they said she will never be forgotten today, and that the impression she made on all those around her will live forever.
Tragic life gone too soon, and now the pressure is on the Blade Runner. So the bold question tonight, does the Blade Runner story make sense? We've got our ladies and gentlemen of our in-studio jury with us here tonight. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's this simple. You are judging the Blade Runner story. You're going to hear all the evidence, and if you decide that his story makes sense, you're going to vote yes at the end of the show. If not, you vote no. Do you understand? All right, simple as that. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, who is the Blade Runner? Who is Oscar Pistorius? Take a look.
He is known as the Blade Runner.
The world's fastest man on no legs.
Oscar had his legs amputated below the knee before his first birthday because of a birth defect. How old were you when you got your first pair of legs?
13 months.
And this is also a great picture of when you were a kid water skiing. Is there anything you can't do?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of things that I'm a bit scared of. I'm terribly scared of heights.
Pistorius famously fought to be able to compete against able-bodied competitors.
My goal, you know, is obviously to qualify for the Olympics, whether it be next year or 2012.
A court eventually overruled concerns that his prosthetic limbs give him an unfair advantage.
This is such an inspirational story. Oscar Pistorius became the first able amputee to take part in an able-bodied Olympics.
I spend a lot of time training and a lot of time sacrificing certain things in my life to be where I am at.
That was Oscar Pistorius, the hero, the man who overcame so much, become such a great athlete, but now he's facing these murder charges. So let's begin tonight with our experts with one word. One word to describe this man, one word to describe this defendant, Oscar Pistorius. Meg Strickler.
Sensible.
Philip Snyder.
Disappointing.
Mike Brooks.
Untruthful.
Nadia Bilchik, one word to describe Oscar Pistorius.
Dangerous.
Kelly Siegler, one word.
Manipulative.
Ryan Smith, one word to describe the Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius.
I gotta say, very controversial.
To say the least. One word from one juror. Let's go all the way to the end. Number 6. Number 6, Ryan.
Juror number 6, Mandy.
Rage. Roid rage.
Rage. Interesting word. Well, we're going to take a look at the prosecution side of the story. They don't think his story makes sense, and they're going to tell you why coming up.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, let's take a look at some of the evidence
proving guilty or not guilty.
Detectives are studying a blood-stained cricket bat found at Pistorius' home.
We go inside the evidence room.
He says he goes into this darkened room. He doesn't have his prosthetic legs on.
Next on HLN After Dark.
It's like, wow, you're waiting for something like this to happen, you know. He would have a trip switch and, you know, he'd get violent and angry and he'd fight with people and he'd cause a lot of problems. And, I mean, that's the incident with me and him was because he was drunk at a party and he started shouting and swearing on the phone. He said, oh, he's not scared. If I want to come down there, he knows where I am and blah, blah, blah. But I left it, you know. I said to him, if you've got a problem, I'll see you when I see you, and, you know.
All right, so that guy's saying that he has a hair-trigger temper, but does the Blade Runner story make sense? He says he didn't murder his girlfriend. Vinny Politan, Mike Brooks over at the HLNTV.com evidence room.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he has a story. The question is his story of the killing a lie? Mike Brooks in his hand has a line-by-line account of that story because the Blade Runner gave it to the judge trying to get out on bail. Me and Mike went through that story one piece at a time. Take a look. Let's walk through the words of Oscar Pistorius. He begins, he says he's in bed on Valentine's Day morning and gets up out of bed.
Right.
Because, why is he getting out of bed, Mike?
He woke up because he said he went to the balcony.
Which is over here.
Which is right here, to bring in the fan.
Okay.
So in the middle of the night, you're sleeping, and all of a sudden you think about, oh, wait a minute, I didn't bring the fan in.
Right.
He says, I heard a noise in the bathroom and realized that someone was in the bathroom.
All right, now the bathroom's on the other side over there, and the entrance isn't there. You got to go down a hallway to go around to that bathroom. What's between him and the bathroom right now?
A bed with a supposed sleeping Reva.
This is where he believes Reva is, yet he says he doesn't see her or doesn't notice. Okay, so now he's got to get his 9mm,
And he doesn't
right?
have his prosthetics on. He says he's on his stumps.
On his stumps, so he's low. He gets the 9mm from underneath his gun.
Right.
And now he's heading towards the bathroom. But as he gets the gun, he's shouting at them to get out of his house.
Vinny, here's another thing. While he's getting his gun, wouldn't you say, Reva, hey, sweetie, call the police. Call the police.
Well, he says he tells her to call the police, but
yeah, but it's on the way. When he gets the gun, it's on the way here. And that doesn't make sense to me.
And he's talking about how dark it is. It's not dark enough that he can't find his gun, but it's too dark for him to realize that Reva is not in the bed. So now he's heading down the hallway, Mike, and this is the hallway which leads to the bathroom. And his theory, what he believes is happening is that intruder or intruders break into his house, and rather than go out to either attack him or steal something, they lock themselves inside his toilet room.
Right. Okay, let's say that the intruders, the supposed intruders, heard him on the balcony. If you were a burglar, you're either going to come in and steal something and leave, or you're just going to go right back down the ladder.
Because you know he's on his way because he's screaming.
Right.
Okay, so they're locked in there. So now he's in fear. Why does he shoot, Mike? What does he say?
I fired shots at the toilet door and shouted to Reva to phone the police.
Didn't hear any response, so now he backs himself out of the bathroom and he's heading back towards the bedroom, but he says he's keeping his eyes on the bathroom because he doesn't know if there's intruders there or not. It's still pitch dark here, but then at some point, Mike, he realizes that Riva's actually not in the bed.
Then he said, I think I must have turned on the lights. I went back to the bedroom, grabbed my cricket bat to bash open the toilet door. Then, Vinny, here's another thing.
So he's trying to get this door open.
Now, apparently there were some panels on this door.
Right.
Okay? So he said, a panel or panels broke off. And I found the key on the floor and unlocked opened the door. Where'd these keys come from?
So that's his story on how he shot and killed Riva. The question is it credible? And Mike, the biggest problem I have is that you're shooting through a closed door. You don't know who's on the other side. You make assumptions.
Right, and he's very experienced with weapons, Vinny. He goes out shooting all the time, and he knows that you don't shoot through a door at an unknown assailant. You know, he don't know who was behind there. You never shoot at something you don't know you're shooting at.
Ryan?
Okay, we got a couple questions from our ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Heather, our juror number 11, has an interesting one.
I was just wondering what his motive would be to kill his girlfriend.
Well, I mean, what you're talking about here is domestic violence. What happens behind closed doors? It's difficult to tell. You've responded to these situations.
Right, and also the government alleges that they were having an argument before this, and there are witnesses who allegedly heard screams, and then silence, and then gunshots.
Okay, Stephanie?
Okay, he said he was walking down the hallway screaming. Why didn't Riva, if she was just innocently using the bathroom, why didn't she say, hey, it's me, I'm in here? Somebody at some point should have. It just doesn't make any sense. She was missing throughout the whole thing, and he thought it was an intruder. So it just, nothing adds up.
No.
Where was she? You know,
and that's why the government alleges that she ran from him during this argument, locked herself in the toilet, and was cowering in the toilet. So, see, that's another reason why the story doesn't add up.
Okay, so you've heard why the story doesn't add up from the prosecution. The defense is up next, telling you why the story does make sense.
Okay, there are going to be lots of bombshells in the 2014 March trial. Bombshells around the forensics, the ballistics. What was the content of the text messages that apparently Riva sent? And remember, today we saw 107 witnesses that were presented on behalf of the prosecution. There are going to be a lot of bombshells on their behalf.
I fired shots at the toilet door and shouted to Riva to phone the police. She did not respond, and I moved backwards out of the bathroom, keeping my eyes on the bathroom entrance. Everything was pitch dark in the bedroom, and I was still too scared to switch on a light. Riva was not responding. When I reached the bed, I realized that Riva was not in.
My heart bleeds for the young man. What can you say if the person you love the most die and you were the instrument? How would you feel? Oscar is, like we all are, still very traumatized. The family is trying to back him up and see that he sort of emotionally and mentally try and cope with the death of Riva. You know, and unintentionally he was the instrument for her death. To come around that is almost impossible.
There's no question that Oscar Pistorius shot and killed Riva Steenkamp, his girlfriend. But the question is, did he do it on purpose? Was it premeditated murder? Or was it some sort of an accident? Well, he has a story that he has told. Our bold question tonight for our in-studio jury is, does the Blade Runner story make any sense? Ryan's standing by with the After Dark defense team.
Thanks, Vinny. You know, the defense feels like it could make sense, and one of the things they're pointing to straight away is the idea of the crime in Pretoria, South Africa, where Oscar Pistorius was living. And let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at some of these numbers, because they are extreme, especially for this area. I mean, we're talking about Nadia Bilczak. Want to bring you in on this. Look at this. There's Africa right there, and you look at South Africa and Pretoria. I mean, it's the second highest crime rate in the country. And Nadia Bilczak, talk to us about the crime in the area and whether that could make his assumption that an intruder was coming in a reasonable one.
Well, as you say, the crime in South Africa is bad, and in fact, research shows that the things South Africa fear most in terms of crime is a home invasion. And I'll tell you, Ryan, when I lived in South Africa, we had 2 home invasions. A friend of mine had 3 armed guys break into his house, torture him with a burning iron. My parents, who still live in Johannesburg, in fact, not far from Pretoria, have 24-hour armed car patrolling their neighborhood. So it's not totally incomprehensible that it was a feeling that this was an intruder, but, and there is a but here, Oscar Pistorius lived in one of the most secure, gated communities in Pretoria. Also, Oscar had a dog. So it's not totally incomprehensible that the defense are using that, and crime is high, but it's unlikely.
Okay. Well, Nadia, you know, there's a lot of talk about security measures when you talk about this case. When I hear your story, just incredible. Take a look at what others are saying about the security measures they have to take in Pretoria.
But
and look at his background. Investigated 2009 complaints against Pistorius, and then when he arrests Pistorius, you know what he says? Remember me? What's that sound like? And then keep going, because as we look at his background, because he's no longer with this case, he was accused of chasing and firing into a minibus full of people while he was drunk in 2011, ladies and gentlemen. Meg, what does that tell the jury?
that will equal shoddy investigation, and the best investigative things happen immediately after.
Well, does he have it in for Pistorius?
No, he does not at all. Law enforcement, Mr. Brooks can say this, all talk like that. They really do. And I can't believe he's sitting at our table right now. This is defense right now. But law enforcement...
I'm just keeping an eye on both of you.
Law enforcement does have a preconceived notion, in my opinion, where they always think that the guy did it before they even get there.
But even if he doesn't, the jury may think that he has a preconceived notion, and that might be enough to say this investigation is shoddy and he didn't commit this crime.
Okay, we'll have to see. The defense has got a lot more to coming up. So does the prosecution. Keep it right here.
Truly, this is the kind of case as a prosecutor you would be chomping at the bit to get to handle. It makes absolutely no sense. He's afraid for his life, but he never calls the police. His girlfriend is bleeding to death in his arms, but he never calls an ambulance. He calls instead an estate administrator. Come on. A burglar forgot to take anything, a dog who forgot to bark. It's crazy. This would be a great case to get to handle if you were the prosecutor.
The Olympic Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius, has now been indicted for premeditated murder.
What's between him and the bathroom right now?
A bed with a supposed sleeping Reva.
This is where he believes Reva is, yet he says he doesn't see her or doesn't notice.
He gets his pistol from under the bed and goes down the hall to confront the intruder.
I fired shots at the toilet door and shouted to Reva to phone the police.
Police believe Pistorius shot Steenkamp 4 times through a closed bathroom door.
He says, I heard a noise in the bathroom and realized that someone was in the bathroom.
All right, now the bathroom's on the other side over there, and the entrance isn't there. You gotta go down a hallway.
She did not respond, and I moved backwards out of the bathroom, keeping my eye on the bathroom entrance.
But he says he's keeping his eyes on the bathroom because he doesn't know if there's intruders there or not. It's still pitch dark here, but then at some point, Mike, he realizes that Reva's actually not in the bed.
Everything was pitch dark in the bedroom, and I was still too scared to switch on a light.
Find out who's in there, but instead fires the 9mm through the door.
I knew I had to protect Reva and myself.
Reva was not responding. When I reached the bed, I realized that Reva was not in bed. That is when it dawned on me that it could have been Reva who was in the toilet.
You've heard his story, but does that story make sense? That's the issue. That's the question this jury is going to decide at the end of the show. Vinny, back to you.
All right. Personally, I don't think it makes much sense, but there are 2 sides to every story. But it's his story, his words. I want you to take a listen to a little bit more of Oscar Pistorius. This is before the shooting ever took place. Take a listen.
Will there ever be a film made about Oscar Pistorius?
I'm not too sure. I like my privacy quite a lot, but you never know. I don't think my story's done yet.
Who'd play you in a film?
It depends who'd play my girlfriend or my wife, and then if that was a good choice, then I'd like to play myself.
Well, that story has changed since that time. The man who did that interview from CNN World Sport, Don Riddell, joins us here. Don, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Were you surprised? You sat down. You spent time with him, right? Were you surprised when you heard about this story and these charges in this case?
Absolutely. I don't think anybody was not surprised. I mean, he is well known, or was well known, as being one of the most courteous, one of the most polite, one of the most accommodating athletes out there. I can't say that about some of the guys I've interviewed in my profession, and he made a really, really strong impression, not to mention the fact he was just such an inspirational guy. He was such a good news story, so this was a huge shock.
Give us an idea of the celebrity of him in South Africa and with Riva, because together, beautiful couple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is absolutely massive in South Africa. Given everything that he'd been through, everything that he'd achieved, that he was going to the Olympics, he'd already won a handful of gold medals at the Paralympics. He was now going to the Olympics, where he was going to compete as alongside able-bodied athletes. He was absolutely huge, and everybody all around the world knew who Oscar Pistorius was. And as for his relationship with Riva Steenkamp, it was a fairly new relationship. I mean, he was well known for having a string of blonde girlfriends. Apparently, they all kind of looked the same. But he and Riva hadn't actually been dating for that long.
And how about his reputation? You know, my understanding is that people knew that this is a guy who had guns.
Yeah, well, this is interesting because up until this happened, you only really heard the good side of the story. After this happened, perhaps some of the people that knew him were more prepared to speak up and say, well, you know, there was another side to Oscar Pistorius. And I guess I can well understand why that story wasn't really covered before, because none of it relatively setting out to do and what he was setting out to achieve. I mean, if you look, for example, at his last Twitter post, which is still up there from 2 days before this happened, he said, "Can't launch my foundation in July. At least 10 disabled kids are going to gain mobility." So, I mean, he really was helping so many people and inspiring so many people. Clearly, that's now changed. And, you know, some of the reports that came out after the fact were very revealing about perhaps what kind of guy he was. You know, I only spent half an hour with him, and in that time I thought he was, you know, a really, really nice guy. But people that spend a bit more time with him said it was obvious he was living a chaotic lifestyle. His diet was all over the place. He was prone to pretty dramatic mood swings. He owned a gun. He talked about the fear he lived in. Earlier in the show, you had testimony from, you know, people having security guards on the gates. He said to one journalist, well, often the security guards are in on it, and they want you to be in at night because they're coming armed, and they persuade you by whatever means necessary to open the safe and show them where everything is. So, you know, I'd certainly, from what I've heard, go along with the idea that he and others do in fear. And he showed the journalist that met him and went to his house, you know, that kind of situation.
Yeah, a different world, I think, and that's one thing that we all have to understand, where he was living, what it was about. Let's get back to his story, though, and his story talking about why he shot and killed Riva. Well, he shot from behind a closed door, and on the other side of that door was the toilet. He thought there were intruders. That's what he said. But what was really behind the door was Riva.
Well, I spoke yesterday to Riva's manager, and the one thing that still remains a mystery is, why did Riva take the cell phone into the bathroom? It's 3 a.m. in the morning. Who takes a cell phone into the bathroom? She also spoke about what an incredible, masterful and powerful and amazing young woman Riva was, and of course today would have been her 30th birthday.
But we are here today as a family. But it's only one thing missing. It's Riva.
There's a space missing.
Adam Steenkamp is Riva's brother.
We're going to keep all the positive things that we remember and know about my sister. And we will try and continue with the things that she tried to make better.
Does the Blade Runner story make sense? Our bold question. Our jury will have a verdict by the end of the program. Welcome back. I want to give this to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Give them the layout, Ryan. If we can hand out a layout of Pistorius' bedroom and bathroom so they have an idea of the area that we're talking about here. And as we see right here in the well of the studio, as it were, we've got a door and a toilet because Riva Steenkamp was on the other side of this door when Oscar Pistorius shot and killed her. And a big issue here is going to be ballistics, Mike.
Exactly. The government says that they believe that he had prosthetics on when he fired the shots because there was some downward trajectory into her body. 4 shots, she was hit 3 times.
Don, what is the prosecution think about what she is doing on the other side over here at the time she's shot?
Hiding.
Hiding, and is she standing, squatted?
Crouching and hiding, as I understand.
Crouching down behind her, kind of low. Okay. So then the other part of this is the ballistics. If he's on prosthetics, then it's going to be clear that it's coming down, right, Mike?
If he's on, yeah. If he's got his prosthetics on,
he's
it's going to be
tall.
Exactly. Otherwise, if he's on his stumps, where is the bullet going to be? It would be straight ahead or in an upward trajectory, if you will.
Depends how far she's crouched, and science will tell us everything. Every single aspect of this will be told through the science and the experts that testify at this.
Now, Don, there was another leak over the weekend regarding this, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's... and who knows with leaks, right?
Yeah, we don't know.
Who knows? But the latest that has been leaked and is being reported in South Africa is that actually it is proved that he was on his stumps.
Which confirms his statement, though.
There we go.
It confirms his statement.
I might just have got that. I might just have
No,
I think you got that right.
No, there's 2 different leaks. I heard 2 different leaks.
Yeah. 2 different leaks, so we'll have to wait and see what happens at trial. But these ballistics are going to be crucial, Ryan.
That's going to be everything. And by the way, he could still be on his stumps. She could still be crouched, and there could still be a downward trajectory. So there's a lot to the angle. Now, let's get to some of our jury questions, by the way. They have a lot of them. John, you had an interesting one. Jury number 4.
If I had an intruder behind a door and I want to convince him that he's trapped in there, I would fire a shot high as a warning, let him know I've got a loaded gun, and if you're in trouble, why would you fire 4 shots through the door blindly to try and kill somebody?
Yeah, but you don't know where, is he the building where he's shooting high? Well, he'll be shooting upstairs.
Well, first of all, think about this.
That's not a good
if
plan
you're an intruder and you may have a bedroom, you're going to try to get out of there. You're not going to lock yourself into it in the bathroom.
He doesn't know the layout.
You don't know that. Come on.
He doesn't
Makes
know the
no
layout.
sense
He hid.
whatsoever.
The intruder hid because he got scared. You know how the heck he got out. He heard the guy reach for a gun and he ran.
You know what else there was no intruder.
You know what else doesn't make sense? A man shooting his model girlfriend for no reason. There is no motive right now, and his story makes sense.
And he wrote out a detailed statement. How many people do that?
Yeah, but there's a lot of things in his statement that don't make sense.
One more. Let's get a question from Shay, our juror number 8.
Well, I'm just wondering why the door would be locked.
Why would it be locked?
Because she was trying to get away from him.
Yeah, I mean, the one part that makes sense to me, After Dark defense, is if you're trying to get away from someone, you go in a room and you lock it to protect yourself, perhaps to protect yourself from someone who has one of these. By the way, Don, what do we call these?
It's a cricket bat.
This is just a cricket bat. And, Mike, this is another important piece of evidence in this case.
But also, there could be a cell phone in there. And if she has a cell phone and we don't have any evidence of her texting or calling any for any...
He said, runs out to the balcony, then comes back to yell for help, then comes back, puts his prosthetics on, tries to kick the door, then runs back in the bedroom to get the bat, to pound on the door to try to get in there after her.
All right, one more question. Alexa, by the way, Nadia Bilczek's daughter, you can ask a question of your mom, by the way.
Oh, it's okay. I told her enough. No. I was just wondering where. So they said that she was found by the door, but if it was an accident and if he wasn't sure, wouldn't she be like sitting on the toilet? Wouldn't she the bathroom for a reason? It's a huge bathroom, as you can tell. You're not crouching by a door just to hang out at 3 in the morning. You're sitting on a toilet at 3 in the morning because you got up to go to the bathroom.
Right. Well, I've seen one of the crime scene photos, and there's a lot of blood right in this area by the toilet itself.
And she fell over, and there's evidence that her bladder's empty. She used the bathroom.
Okay. You can see how this is a tough one on both sides, ladies and gentlemen. But Vinnie Politan, he's got a mystery reveal coming up.
As a prosecutor, you might not have to prove what a motive is in a murder case, but you always want to. And the motive in this case is really pretty clear. They got into an argument, they got into a fight, he lost his cool, he lost his temper, he got enraged, and he shot her. And he's insulting all of our intelligence by trying to come up with this intruder story. And what he ought to be saying is, I lost it, I thought she was going to leave me, she was the love of my life.
Yesterday, I spoke to Graham Joffe, a very well-known South African sports journalist, and he said he saw Oscar change. He became intoxicated with his own fame. He did bizarre things like shoot a gun out of the sunroof of a car. have a very, very irresponsible boating accident, charge a gun in a restaurant. He said he saw the progression of Oscar Pistorius becoming increasingly erratic.
Plus, what's inside that mystery box? It's our smoking gun. What could be tonight's game changer? And you're about to see a big reveal.
One thing many don't know, Bachelor says, is that Pistorius was armed nearly everywhere he went. He even applied to become a licensed gun collector so he could buy more than the 4 guns allowed by South African law. Friend and boxer Kevin Lorena says Pistorius was holding a gun at this outdoor cafe when it went off. Lorena said Pistorius was showing the gun to a friend.
That was a major mistake, what happened from Oscar's party. It wasn't intentional, and that also could have been a very bad event and something that could have been very tragic. We were all very fortunate that day.
Well, apparently the shooting of his girlfriend Riva, not the first time Oscar Pistorius' gun discharged. In fact, the Blade Runner, known as someone who always had a firearm close by. Tonight, our jury will render a verdict on our bold question involving the shooting death of Pistorius' girlfriend Riva. Does the Blade Runner story make sense? But before the jury votes, it's time to see what's in my mystery box tonight. Let's take a look. What do we have? Look, ladies and gentlemen, it's another. The Blade Runner verbally assaulted her at a party, chased her and her friend out of the house, slammed the door on his ex's friend when she tried to return to get her purse. Pistorius denies the account, but here we see a man who has a history of an alleged temper, violence, and guns. An exact recipe for what happened the night of the shooting.
All right, Vinny, let's give the defense a chance to rebut. Meg, what do you think?
Oh, please. That's your history of guns and violence? That one story? Are you kidding me? In real life, when you have somebody who has a history of guns and violence, there are former police reports. You will have friends and lovers and family members talk about angry outbursts. We have none of that here. We have had nobody actually testify yet, or even comment on TV and talk about what an angry man this is.
And those charges were dropped.
Thank you.
They were dropped, so who knows if she was lying?
But if you've got a guy that killed somebody here in the United States, he'd be held without bond. He wouldn't be out walking around like he is.
Shows the strength of their case.
Yeah, right.
Hold on. Let's let the jury get to their business. All right, ladies and gentlemen of our in-studio jury, you've heard all the evidence. You've seen the mystery reveal. The question we're asking tonight, does the Blade Runner story make sense? It's time for you to deliberate.
Goes, Oscar Pistorius has the best, if not one of the best, attorneys in South Africa, Barry Rue, and of course they'll talk about the fact that he was in fear of his life. The reality is it's going to come down to forensics, to ballistics, to the 107 witnesses, and the judge will decide. Remember, in South Africa there is no jury, there's only a judge.
It's funny, I would say to Oscar's lawyers, give up your joke of a defense that this was an intruder and get a little closer to the truth, which is that he lost his temper. At least he might sound sympathetic, saying he was in love and didn't want to lose her, because right now the only way he sounds is manipulative.
I returned to the bathroom calling her name. I tried to open the toilet door, but it was locked. I rushed back into the bedroom and opened the sliding door, exiting onto the balcony and screamed for help. I put on my prosthetic legs, ran back to the bathroom and tried to kick the toilet door open. I went back into the bedroom and grabbed my cricket bat to bash the door open. A panel or panels broke off and I found the key on the floor and unlocked and opened the door. Riva was slumped over, but alive.
Let's see what's behind door number 1.
And in 2013,
2, 1, go!
Riva was making her reality television debut on a program called Tropica Island of Treasure 5, which was shot in Jamaica.
My name is Riva, and I'm a model, and we're in Jamaica this year. Be jealous, you can be jealous. I take home with me so many amazing memories and things that are in here and that are in here that I'll treasure forever. I'm gonna miss you all so much. I love you very, very much.
Our jury deliberating our bold question tonight. Does the Blade Runner story make sense? Here's what you're saying online, HLNTV.com. 15%, 1-5, say yes, the story makes sense. 85% say no, his story doesn't make sense. But today, really a significant day because today would have been Riva's 30th birthday.
And
really
her family have been celebrating is the wrong word, obviously, but they've been marking the occasion. They say they were even going to bake her a cake, and they had absolutely no interest in what was going on in the courtroom today because they don't care about that today. It's all about her and remembering her.
Yeah. Nadia, 30th birthday, this would have been for Riva. I mean, really makes this so tragic, gone so young.
So tragic. Such a beautiful girl, such a talented girl. You know, she had a law degree. But the reality is, Vinny, whether Oscar is found guilty of what South Africans call dolus eventualis, which is murder by intent, or whether it's manslaughter, the reality is Oscar Pistorius has to live with murdering or killing, whatever it is, let's say killing his very beautiful girlfriend.
Yeah, and that's, I'm wondering, can he recover? Because there's a chance he could be found not guilty. Can he recover?
Well, emotionally, no way. I mean, this is a tragic story. I mean, even if you want to assume that this was a first-degree murder, there was still, if you want to argue the whole domestic violence angle, this was anger. This is what happened that night was anger. The next morning, he had to wake up with what happened here. And that can't be taken away.
A reporter asked him in court today, how are you feeling? And he mouthed, not well. Yeah, it's taking a toll on him, whatever happens.
One of the biggest problems is motive. Where's the motive here? Did it exist? Maybe we don't see it. Jury has a verdict. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have a verdict on the bold question. Does the Blade Runner story make sense? Let's go one by one. Juror number 1. No. Juror number 2, no. Juror number 3, no. Juror number 4, no. Juror number 5, no. Juror number 6, no. Juror number 7, no. Juror number 8, no. Juror number 9, no. Juror number 10, no. Juror number 11, no. And juror number 12, no. Unanimous.
Wow. Great
no.
job, defense.
Near unanimous online. And there come to you, because you're South African, you've had experience with crime. Tell us about that and what you think about Oscar Pistorius' situation.
If you take the fact that where he lived in South Africa, a gated community, everything he wanted to protect is there. I'm not discrediting the fact that the gated community might have had problems and corruption is rife in South Africa. It's real, but his story doesn't make sense.
All right, my friend. Let's get some more comments here from our jury. Let me come over to you. Colleen,
yes?
You seem to say no from the very beginning. Nothing here changed your mind.
Nothing changed my mind,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I'm just thinking, okay, I'm married, and I can't imagine if my husband hears somebody in the bathroom. Well, I'm in the bathroom, my husband hears a noise, he's gonna come with four bullets. I mean, you'd think he'd call through the door or something, you know what I mean? You hear somebody in the bathroom and you have a wife or whatever there, you don't just start shooting.
Yeah, no warning shot, nothing else. Heather, what did you think?
There's a lot that didn't make sense. I know the crime is high in South Africa, but you leave your door open on your balcony to pull in a fan, and you're that scared, and then somebody that's an intruder is going to hide in your bathroom door. I mean, in your toilet room. There's a lot that just didn't make sense to me.
All right, Vinny, you start to wonder. He might not have to prove his case, but his story's got to make sense for him to get acquitted.
And he has a story. The big wild card here, though, is, as we're learning, it's not a jury trial. So we're not going to have a jury. It's going to be a judge. And you wonder how these judges see things, if there's any other influences that might be part of the system there.
And to be clear here, life doesn't always make sense. So when you're making sense, there are a lot of things that happen in our lives that don't make sense. So let's be clear on that one.
Our jury made sense tonight. Great job by them. Great job by our guests. Thanks, Don. That's it for HLN After Dark.